Well, we have a great lineup of speakers this evening. We're going to start off with Professor Harry Veryser. Dr. Veryser is currently the chairman of the Department of Economics and Finance at the University of Detroit Mercy. Mr. Veryser has served on the faculties of Northwood University, St. Mary's College at Orchard Lake, Hillsdale College. He served as the chairman of the Department of Economics and Finance at Walsh College, which is the position that he now holds at the University of Detroit, where he also taught courses in economics, histories, ethics, and philosophy. Mr. Veryser is the chairman of the American Council of Economics and Society, a senior member of the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and a member of the Philadelphia Society. Dr. Veryser also serves on the advisory boards of the De La Salle Collegiate High School in Warren, Michigan, St. Thomas More Academy in Burton, Michigan, and the Mackinac Center for Public Policy in Midland, Michigan, as well as the Acton Institute. Harry, how do you find time for all of this? So, many of you know him from the symposiums that he has held that have been stunning programs on Saturdays at the University of Detroit Mercy. His articles have appeared in the Detroit News, the Intercollegiate Review. He is the author of Our Economic Crisis, Sources and Solutions. And because of Harry's tireless efforts for the conservative cause, the New Centurion program named its first lecture series in his honor. I present to you Mr. Dr. Harry Veryser. Oh, there he is.
I should mention that all those businesses I've sold using Austrian Economics 5 years ago. So I'm no longer in business and got out with a lot of prayer at the right time, I think. What they asked me to talk about tonight was the rise and fall of empires. And you might say it's the rise and fall of almost everybody and almost any business. And there are three real important causes why an organization, whether it's a country or a business or a political party or a church, fails. And there are three, as I mentioned, causes. One is overbuilding. Another way in business, too much overhead. Number two, misdirection of energy. And number three, failure of information. Let's take the first one. And I'm going to state some books that I would suggest you might want to read. Paul Kennedy wrote a very good book some time ago called The Rise and Fall of the Great Empires. And he talked about this whole concept of imperial overstretch. In other words, what happens is that the empire or the business gets too big. The overhead is too hard to carry. And what we find out is that the business then starts to, as it now starts to develop increasing cost, it no longer can bring the revenues in. And what happens is now we get a reversal, and the organization goes into, in a sense, it begins to dissolve. If we take a look at the Roman Empire suffered from imperial overstretch. The British Empire, imperial overstretch. The French Empire, imperial overstretch. It got so large that it could not be controlled. And it began to lose money. And most of these empires, the first thing they do when they start losing money is they begin to devalue the currency. And what you see is a constant thread throughout history is inflation becomes part of the package. The Romans, at the time of Augustus, Caesar Augustus had a currency that was 100%, almost 100% gold and silver. It took the Romans 500 years to do what the Federal Reserve Board has done in 100 for us. In other words, the Roman coin, under Caesar Augustus, 100% gold and silver. By the time of the collapse of the Roman Empire, it was worth about 5 cents in terms of gold or silver. Now that's what's happened to us, and what I would suggest you do is go on the government statistics, BLS.gov. They have an inflation calculator, and put in $100, because you can put in $100 and see what $100 then would buy today, and it's about 2,000 bucks. Okay? This is very public information. Why? Because as the empire grew, it outstripped its ability to tax. It outstripped its ability to raise revenue. And what the politicians simply did was to do what? Was, we call it turn on the printing presses. The Roman emperors, they took the coins, they melted them down, mixed them with lead. And we have stories of Romans at the time of the fall of the empire, 476 AD, carrying bags of lead flakes. And each one of those flakes was worth a couple of billion sestertii. If we take a look at the French Empire, French, very successful empire for a while, started running around the 1700s, started running out of money. What did they do? They brought in a man from Scotland by the name of John Law. What did Mr. Law start doing? Printing money, pretending that the paper was worth what gold was worth. And the French, finally, the empire or the monarchy collapsed, really went bankrupt in 1789. And of course, you see the debacle that occurred with the French Revolution. The British Empire, when Britain went into World War I, this is one of the major problems with empires, is they make horrible mistakes. What the British did is they only taxed their people about 25% in order to pay for World War I. The rest was inflated, bank credit. Britain came out of the war a victor and a loser. In 1931, the British pound was forced off the gold standard, and the British Empire started to come undone. And one of the things that always occurs, and Ronald Reagan mentioned it in one of his speeches, no great country can survive on paper money. So it must have a metallic backing. Now, if you take a look at our own situation, in our growth, an empire, in 1971, Richard Nixon broke the last tie with gold when he broke Bretton Woods. I was a young economist then, and I called a press conference. The free press actually came. And for someone who was 28 years old, I was quite impressed. You can take a look at it. You want to go to their website or whatever, 1971, August 16th or 17th, and said, this will lead to inflation. Okay, and I was attacked by a lot of my Republican friends saying, you're attacking the president, after all, he is a Republican. I said, I don't care if he's a Republican, he's an inflationist, and this is going to have very, very severe consequences. If you take a look at your business statistics, go into BLS, put 1971, $100 in there. It'll tell you what it'll buy today, about 25 bucks. Okay, about $25 worth. The currency is in the process of dissolution. And America will not be able to keep this empire by borrowing money from the Chinese. You cannot borrow your way into prosperity.